Hi, and welcome to Serenity Now, a place for entrepreneurs to ask questions, learn, get connected, and be inspired. Join us as we talk about all things business and the search for the ever-elusive Serenity Now in both business and personal life.
Peggy, why should we listen to this episode today?
I think you should listen to this episode because we touch on some of the factors that are going to impact your business, or even if you aren't in business, they're going to impact you as a consumer. And I think part of the reason for listening to this podcast might be to get a sense of some of the topics that will be covered in our future podcasts, and also some of the key insights that we've already given in previous podcasts, which I think we'll be sending out this year as throwback episodes. They're all going to help you navigate 2024.
As we move into the new year, 2024, we thought we'd do a little reflection and share some thoughts on what we see may be ahead for this year. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Serenity Now for entrepreneurs. I have with me today Serenity Sisters. Peggy, welcome.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Looking forward to a new 2024.
Fantastic. And Candace, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Looking forward to 2024. 2023 was pretty wild ride for me. So I'm hoping that 2024 is a little bit calmer.
And myself, Rita. I kind of can echo on both of those comments. So I'm going to see how 2024 shapes out. And we thought we'd share a few thoughts, maybe some concerns, some trends, maybe some advice on how to prep. And we'll let Candace take it away.
Yeah. So, many of us at the beginning of the new year, we kind of maybe put our minds towards thinking about what's going to be upcoming for the year. Maybe we're thinking about what's bothering us and looking for solutions to those things that are bothering us. So Rita and Peggy, what are some of your concerns for the upcoming year?
In the forefront of everything, it seems to me that interest rates are going to drive some decisions. That's the way that even as a consumer, I look at it. But as a business person, I think too, it's going to be a factor in the way that people get money or look at how to finance their business.
I went and took a look at, so there's my own gut feelings. And then, of course, there's some research that we always like to do. And if you take a look at people like Maclean's or Yahoo Finance, even the Business Council of Canada, and just different news networks, the big things that everyone is looking at and thinking about and has been is inflation. That's a topic that hasn't changed. There's some different thoughts around it, different thoughts around rates of interest, debt levels that are rising here in Canada, rising costs of pretty much everything across the board. Food insecurity, technology is another one. How does it fit in?
I'm getting
Where
depressed.
Does it fit in? There's some lawsuits happening with AI, labor discussions. Yeah, I know. When we list these all off, right, Peggy?
Yeah, I know. It's sort of depressing.
Fall into that. It's interesting because some of these reports are coming back saying, even with all of this, Canadian businesses are still feeling optimistic. How does that round that all up for you?
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, weird things happened in the pandemic when you thought that everybody had no jobs and no money and house prices went up and people were buying like crazy. Like, it is sort of counterintuitive. Let's talk more about those trends, though, you guys. Like really, as a business owner, we know what might be the problem, but why? Like, why are these things the way they are? And what is it that a business owner is going to have to do to navigate that? Those are huge. I mean, I can't cover it all in this episode, but we do have some serious thoughts on some of these issues that maybe we need to do some in-depth podcasts on, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can say as a business owner, I'm definitely feeling the pressure. I'm feeling the those interest rates and the inflation. I mean, it's putting pressure on human resource fulfillment in our business because we're a service business. I mean, the only thing we have to sell is our people's time. And clients are pushing back on having to pay more for those services. So we're looking at options to improve our efficiencies and reduce costs where we can, and trying not to push the total cost increase onto the client. But the fact of the matter is that things just cost more. It sucks, but it is what it is. So all of our time and effort is going into the whole efficiencies. That's what we're looking at. And we're looking at lots of different things.
Which brings up that other topic, too, that we covered once already, as that AI and how it can improve those efficiencies in your business. That's another topic altogether.
Yeah, we did a little bit of an understanding of AI. I think we're going to have to come back and revisit that because I'm sure that you guys have heard of stuff in the news of AI copyright lawsuits that are out there now. Different industries are being checked or reviewed. Peggy, you could speak better to this
Yeah,
when
we
you talked
did.
about.
We
Yeah,
did in our
yeah.
industry. There was sort of a bulk audit of shred claims last fall, and I thought it very curious. Never happened to me in over 30 years of doing business. And CRA looked at 6 out of 8 that we filed in 1 month and reviewed 6 of them. I don't think I've seen 6 reviewed in 2 years. Never mind 1 month. And when I thought about it, about 6 months later, we had that conversation, a really good conversation about AI on one of our podcasts. And I thought to myself, I wonder if they were testing. I wonder if they were trying to see if we were using AI to write our technical reports. And it turns out I recently spoke to someone who was aware of exactly why they were doing that. And it was about that. There was consulting firms advertising that they were using an AI-driven method to write technical reports, and the CRA clamped down on it. So interesting that it can be a tool, an asset, but it can also be a detriment. In my business, it's absolutely a detriment, but in that respect of writing the reports. But certainly in many businesses, it's going to be an asset that they're going to have to investigate because of those efficiencies that are needed, because the cost of everything is so high, and because labor is such a difficult thing to get reliable people and be able to afford new employees, etc. Right? So I don't know. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, I think you touched upon like another key piece, like, and Candice, this is what you were talking about too, like the rising cost, right, of labor. And I don't think that's going to trend downward anytime soon. I think it's just going to continue to go up, and also the lack of finding good people. So recruitment, top talent recruitment, I think that's something that we've been discussing as well, right? I think that'll be coming up shortly in another episode, just to focus specifically on that. So I hear you. Like, that's the whole reason why we're trying to figure all this out. And you're coming up with efficiencies, Candice. And then in your industry, Peggy, AI doesn't work. It can't. For your technical writing, it won't work. I know that I've received many different partner emails from various banks and investors and such saying, we hate these business plans that are coming out to us. And we know it's all AI. Nothing is tailored. Nothing is specific. And, we need you guys to go in there and help us make this more of an understandable plan. And I guess we're forgetting about the people behind it. And that whole personal part is lost. And so that voice is missing, because when you just get access to information, that's one thing, but now you got to personalize it and put that touch in. So that's a big thing. One of the other things that has been happening, like we review with our clients every quarter how everything's coming along, and we're prepping for the new year all throughout the year. And one of the comments that came back, or with several clients, was, in the past 30 years, we've been able to gauge, here's what's going to happen this quarter. Here's the next thing. We know how to price this. We know how to work on this. But all the variables that we had an understanding of before in the last 30 years, they're pretty much all wide open again. So that means we don't understand, how things are going to shape up. And we're taking a look in food, for example. We were able to say, this is when we buy, this inventory, and we know we're going to get a good price at this point. But that's changed. If you look at livestock and pricing and commodities, everything is a bit of a challenge right now. And we know it's just pretty much all mostly going up. So it's hard. It's hard to predict some of these variables now.
We're also in a very volatile political landscape. I don't know if we even can get into that subject at all, but I do think one thing just to touch on is there is going to be a change of government. I'm fairly certain we're not going to see the same parties in Canada or the United States. For some reason, my thought goes there. My gut tells me that might happen. And I know from my business background in grants that really does make a difference. I mean, with money hard to get from banks and interest rates being so high, people do turn their focus towards grants as a form of funding. And I'm just wondering, if we do change governments, what will that look like? So more on that later.
I was just going to say on the AI front, it's funny because I actually spent an hour and a half this morning because one of our big plans this year is having our team use AI, but as a responsible employers, you need to teach them to use it ethically. And because AI is trailblazing, there's not a lot out there. There's not worldwide acceptable standards in AI like there is in accounting, for instance. Like accounting is regulated internationally, nationally, provincially. It's regulated from every direction, but AI isn't. So as a responsible employer, we're actually putting a lot of time and effort into teaching our team to use it in a responsible manner, respecting privacy, respecting security, while balancing the efficiencies that we can get from it with reasonableness, because it's not always accurate. I learned a new term this weekend called hallucinations. Apparently, AI has hallucinations.
Well, if AI is deriving all of their content from the internet, we all know you can't believe everything you read on the internet. So where's the filter in that? And who's monitoring that? Like, very good point, Candace.
Yeah, it just
the filter has to be the user. The filter has to be the user.
Yeah, it's just like every other kind of tool in our toolbox. It's a resource that can be used, and you've got to be able to learn about this tool and help it work for you, not the other way around. So,
but I do think you have to use it. I think we had a podcast where somebody says either you're using it or you're out of business.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So, ladies, we have the what. We have the things that we think might impact businesses. And so, is there any advice we can give people? What is our thought on that? Rita, I want to ask you because you're sort of a bit on the pulse of the trends and you see a lot, especially in dealing with financial institutions and in your own business. I know you mentioned that you're a little bit pivoting this year because of high interest rates and whatnot.
Well, in our business where we support that gap that's between entrepreneurs and access to capital. So just think of that gap and it continues to grow. And to fill that gap, you can use institutional funds. So from your banks, you can use grants, for example, SHRED, like Peggy will do with her company, or various other grants that are out there, or we work with investors. And so that can start with, some non-dilutive all the way to dilutive, from angel to venture. And so we've always worked holistically with our clients in all three of those areas. But of course, when money was cheap, it's nice and easy, non-dilutive, go to the banks. And so you just get that. As things have changed, I think, what did we have? 5 or 6 different changes in rates last year, in a year. I think, that's just insane for someone to predict in business anyways. So we've moved more and aligning more so with grants and our investors as we continue to move forward. So instead of focusing more typically on the institutions, it's now moving slightly to the other side. If you're going to pay such high rates anyways, go with the ones that are going to be able to help move with you faster and not take up as much time as the institutions, because they'll still take their 6 to 8 or even more, weeks to do their due diligence. The due diligence is higher. The rates continue to be, a challenge, and the risk appetite is definitely changing. If you take a look at the banks themselves, you'll see that I think it was over 6,000 employees that have been laid off already. Continued cuts will be coming with every single bank. And when you take a look and think about that, like, why are banks laying off people? Well, that means they're concerned too, right? So if you ever want to know kind of some ideas and thoughts of how to look at what's happening going forward in business, take a look at these big institutions. What are they doing? If they're being careful and cautious on costs and labor, we should also take a look at that. They're trimming their fat. They're using efficiencies. This is the same thing that Candace was talking about with her firm. All of us are kind of working on the same things because we know things are changing. We know the economic landscape is a little more volatile, a little less predictable. The same thing with the political landscape that you were talking about, Peggy. So if you know all of these pieces, then you should be taking a look at other options to get access to capital. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think expanding on that, I think we need to really start thinking outside the box. Like the same old, is not working anymore. We need to look at different solutions, different options, be open to things that might seem crazy. Like, maybe they're not as crazy as they sound. So looking at new solutions for old problems, I think. And to be fair, Rita, we're not actually trimming any fat. We just can't add any fat. We're having trouble getting new skilled people. So we're trying to make do with what we have and using systems and processes and automation where possible to make everybody's job easier so that we can use those brains for the critical things, not the fill your time things. So.
Right. But if we take a look at industries in, like, for example, production and manufacturing, and if we go into food industries where you actually need to have people on the front lines, you can't, well, I shouldn't say can't, I bet, because I guess in some places around the world, a friend of mine just came back from Japan and he was at a restaurant. It was with all robots, all automated. So robots, and then, there's nobody that you actually speak to. And the food just comes to you. And he said it was actually a pleasant experience. He didn't mind it. I think I would feel funny about that. But in most places, if you go to a butcher shop, the whole reason to go to a butcher shop is because they know you. They know what kind of cuts you like, and they're able to help you out with that. So those people are hard to replace. So there's costs and efficiencies and ways that you can, make things a little bit easier. But for example, like you said, Candace, the brains, you still need brains, and the butcher shop still need the butchers. So there's certain things that we can't trim.
That's true. But like all businesses, there are tasks that can be automated or fulfilled by robots where you don't need the brain. And I have a friend who's Korean, and she said in Korea, when you go into a cafe, like a Starbucks type of cafe, when you go in there, it is completely 100% robot operated. They make cappuccinos for you. They make lattes for you. You enter your drink and a robot makes it. I can see that. That kind of thing is, it's a coffee, right? You walk in, you buy a coffee, you walk out. But yes, there's going to be trades that we can't replace with robots, but those ones that can be, I think that's a trend that's coming. And sometimes in restaurants, the way you get service right now, I'd be happy if a robot served me because its service is ridiculous sometimes.
We've all had that server that comes around every 2 seconds and says, "Can I help you? Can I help you?" And it's like, just let me eat.
How about those restaurants right now where there's nobody and, you see 12 empty tables and you're standing at the door waiting to sit down? There is a labor crisis at that level of skill. And, if we can get some of that filled by robots, maybe better.
I'm still never going to go to a place that has robots. I can't feel comfortable. I want to have the people and actually still want to support the people.
But that thinking, Rita, is like, I'm never going to change. I'm never going to change.
No, I'm not saying I'm never going to change. It's just basic values and philosophy that I have, that I want to work and deal with a human. I don't want to deal with a robot. So I think there's changes that you want to look at. If business is different, if I'm looking at efficiencies and stuff like that, but if I'm going to go out and put my money somewhere, I'm going to put it with that company that has the staff, actual humans. But that's my choice.
I'm going to give you my thought on that. If I'm an employer and I run a coffee shop and I have to deal with a whole bunch of employees and they all have not showing up for work, showing up late, I have to go home, my baby's sick, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I get it. Life happens. I think I'd rather deal with robots, just saying.
And how much does a robot cost and how does it work? What if it malfunctions and all of that?
I'd have to have my husband there to function it. I'd have to employ my husband.
So now I need Mr. Techie in the back, but he costs more than all the staff combined just to make sure that robot works. But okay.
Oh my goodness. There is no solution.
I think the point of this was we're trying to talk about different thoughts and ideas. And that's what I think every business is doing, doing considerations, reflecting, looking at what others are trying to do and see what might make sense. So you can't dismiss. I always say, throw out the ideas on the table. And sometimes I say, keep the blue sky ideas there too, as well, because we never know when that can be implemented. So always trying to stay open. Like you said earlier too, Candace, this is the year. Let's be open. Let's be open. There's no kind of bad idea at this point. Put it all on the table and let's see how things are working. But that takes time and energy too.
There's a technique that we use when we're brainstorming is, all right, if we want to do this, throw out the wildest idea. And even if it sounds impossible, let's just acknowledge it's impossible. But if we were going to do it, how would we do it? Right? Because you may not get that impossible, but you might get 80% there, which is still 110% better than where you're at. Right? It's like the shoot for the stars and you might reach the moon kind of issue. Right? So, don't limit your thinking, but do think about it. Think about it this year. Think and act, even if it's small incremental changes, because this is the year. Yeah.
I think this is also the year where the outside people can come in and give some different thoughts and food, just because when you've got someone from the outside looking in, the lens is different. There's no bias. There's the fears or concerns or blocks that you may have inside your business. They don't bring that with them. They just kind of are able to help you with that. And I do like how you did that brainstorming, Candice. That sounds fantastic. It's kind of what I call blue sky. Just throw it all up on the table and then acknowledge it and work through the pieces. But the outside experts now coming in to take a look, I think would be pretty handy now. And there is places in every company where you can look for things like obsolete stuff, things that you could improve on, and things that may just not fit your business style anymore. So one of the other things that we always do with our clients is, okay, so as we are getting closer to the new year, we're seeing how things have been trending the last few quarters. Things are looking, have we changed the end goals of our business? No. Okay. So if we haven't, or if we have, based on what's been happening, then now we need to realign things. And so if you need to realign things, then that's when you get into the strategy sessions and do the whiteboards, the things that you're talking about, Candice. And then we start planning the quarters coming up for the new year about here's the new alignment, here's the new end goals. And this is the reason why we're doing these new end goals. A perfect example is the one that I just talked about with our business and how we still have what we're doing. We're, helping our entrepreneurs with the gap between access to capital and entrepreneurs, but maybe not so focused on the institutional side. And so moving to the other side. So we're building and continuing to build our partnerships on that side. So making sure that you're taking a look at your end goals, seeing if that's changed or not. And if it has changed, then bringing in these different ideas to focus on the new end goals will help. And that's how we get alignment again.
Ladies, I think it's time we did a little bit of a quick fire. I think today we talked about a lot of things that could impact a business decision in 2024 and the factors that might influence it. So let's just go around and express our takeaways. So Candice, what is your big takeaway today?
I think my biggest takeaway is my hope that people really sit down and think about what might need to change and action it. Even if it's small actions, it doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. Little things will make difference. But the whole ostrich head in the sand thing is not going to work this year. You need to go at it head on this year, I think. So what about you, Rita?
I was going to say, echo what you're saying there, Candice. I really like that. I think it's if you've never done it before, and I think everyone out there has been doing it ever since the pandemic, is taking a look at what's happening inside the business more than we've ever done before. Looking to outside experts for support and advice. That doesn't mean you take everything, but they can bring some insights to the table that you may not be aware of. And then refocusing, realignment with the understanding of what are the end goals of the business. How are we going to continue to be able to support the customers, the clients that we've got, the staff that we have? I'm not interested in anybody axing their entire team, but at the same time, for a business to continue, and if you're just going to maintain is one thing, if you're going to grow is another thing. Those are all things that you need to take time to work out some strategies, but be aware of all these different things that are happening. And I do like the idea of what you said, Candice, no head in the sand this year. It's time to sit up and take a look, and no bad ideas. Throw them out all on the table.
Yeah, I agree with you, ladies.
The better.
The crazier, the better. Sure, we call those your big wish. What's your big wish? I think in terms of my company, every year at the end of the year, we do some housekeeping, right? I think everybody has that sort of mentality at the end of the year. You clean up the little things that need fixing and you make some plans for some new things. And I think this year, one of the big things that people should be cognizant of, and that is the external factors that are going to press on your business. You know, when it comes to talent, when it comes to cost of money, when it comes to cost of all other goods, I think they are going to make business people take notice. They're going to have to change, pivot, get creative, whatever it might be. So I think we've all sort of said the same thing, only different today. But yes, those external factors are going to change the way we think in 2024.
Yeah, never more so than ever before, right? So a year of hope, a year of change, a year of being open and throw out those blue sky ideas, whatever way you want to call those ideas, but also remember to stay focused on what your end goals are. I wish we had some solid answers. I wish we could look into a crystal ball for everyone and share some perfect insight as we go forward into 2024. But I do hope perhaps that some of these thoughts, some of these reflections that we've shared may help bring some serenity now to you. Thanks so much. And we look forward to sharing some exciting episodes coming up soon.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and picked up some good tips and best practices that would benefit your entrepreneurial journey. Remember, none of the content in this podcast should be relied upon as standard legal or business advice. Always consult a professional for your specific business. You may know someone who could benefit from this podcast. Please share it with your business community, and perhaps it can give an entrepreneur you know some serenity now.